Hello and welcome to another video about the extension of Heaton Lodge Junction Phase 2. Now, you've caught me track lifting as we speak. Behind me I've probably done in the last few days maybe another 20 metres of lifting 14 tracks, each again 20 metres long. So that's been cutting my work out, so to speak. If we spin round, I have got that much left to do. And as most of you will know, as I mentioned last week, this layout is going to be extended, or at least these boards you're looking at are being extended 6 foot one side and 3 foot the other, as well as the 5 foot in between. So it's going to be enormously wide. But the good news is it's all going to be on hand carts, which if there's a catastrophic derailment, we can just roll them out of the way and get to the offending train. Now, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the cement factory again. I know this has bored some of you probably, but the thing is, I've got a vision in my mind of how I want this extension and this layout to look. And it's really difficult to convey to people until you finish something which kind of brings the scale home to you. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'll finish the cement factory shell itself and the garages. So I'm going to show you that in a minute and how I've lit it. And we're also going to look at phase 1, Heaton Lodge, the one that you've all seen and hopefully know and love. And I'm going to show you more detail, because I know that was popular last week, about how I made the detail on some of the parts of Heaton Lodge Junction phase 1, and how you can copy that and put it in your own layouts, whatever gauge you modelling, whether it be N gauge, double O gauge or O gauge. So without further ado, let's crack on. So here we are, the basic shell, all finished, all lit, garages as well, of the cement factory building. This is absolutely huge, but I really hope you think it looks impressive, because it really did take a fair amount of work to put together. It's obviously all been lit as well. You can see the lights from the individual rooms inside. I don't know what building you actually call that, but it's obviously the tallest building of Cement Factory number 1 building, and the garage is beneath. These are lit with these, just show you, they're by a company called, put it the right way around, Eve model, yeah, and 12 volt DC lights, and I have just basically wired them. You can see what I've done here. I've wired them all individually, because what I didn't want to do is put loads of terminal blocks inside, because as you can see through the glazing, which I've just used Perspex and B&Q for this, terminal blocks are going to be very visible. So I've just wired them, and I've run all the wires individually out to the side, and they're all going to be disguised by way of another small building. But I'm so pleased with this. It kind of puts everything in perspective, as I said earlier. The 2 drain pipes, would you believe, are going to be, these are 2 of the 12 concrete silos, which are going to be next to the main building. Going to be joined by brass gantries and walkways, loads more detail to add, which I'm going to nick out of Walther's 00, that's an American make, Walther's 00 gauge kits, because there's other buildings to add on top of this main building. There's also a blue circle cement sign being made at the minute to go on the top, which will be floodlit. But loads of ladders, walkways, etc., etc. Tim Horns kindly agreed to do some resin printing for some funny shapes that I can't get anywhere else. So hopefully that'll complete everything. But I just thought I'd show you this. It puts everything into perspective, and there's going to be 5 of these buildings, and they're going to run a significant way down the layout, about 25 foot altogether at the front. Also, just to inform you, there's going to be another layout, it's going to be a passenger line, which is going to run in front of the cement factory, and that's going to be elevated. It's just going to be double track, and if you think about it, it's just going to be a massive rectangle. So it's going to fit, it's going to run all the way down the front, in front of the cement factory, and then it's going to loop round once it hits the scenic break at each end, which is about 200 foot long, as you know, and it's going to come back over this far set of tracks and disappear down the other side, and that's going to be completely separate. That is just going to be for passenger trains, whereas all this, or this is all coming up, as you know, but the new marshalling yard is obviously all going to be freight. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to elaborate on that a bit, not today, but in a future video. But anyway, there we go. There we have it. Hope you like it. The O-gauge radio-controlled dumper truck, front loader, and the one that's just about to be converted, a blue circle cement mixer in O-gauge, are all there ready and waiting. But I'm really looking forward to detailing this. It'll be absolutely superb. It was difficult to get it together because, as you know, I'm on my own most of the time, and so I had to use a lot of clamps. Fell over a couple of times, and but I'm really pleased with this. And yeah, you can see again what I'm trying to kind of get here. So yeah, hope you like it. Right, let's have a look at this part of the layout, which again is one of my favourite parts, and it's the dive under tunnel entrance. Now, as you can see from the photo popping up, hopefully this is very, very similar, because nearly all the details on the original, on the real thing, I copied onto this model. So I'm just going to go through what you can nick and hopefully replicate on your layout, whatever gauge you're actually modelling in. Now, most tunnels, between them, you usually have a drain pipe, which is often very rusty. I'm just gonna come in here and show you. We've got a rusty drain pipe. Where you have a rusty drain pipe, you always have a grate at the bottom, and you also have some spilt water. So we've got all those 3 things there. We've got those little markings at the side of the entrance, which obviously are a restriction for gangers and people that walk the line. But I really like this bit here, which is the side embankment walling, which again is just plastic sheet, which I've just dry brushed. I've just used all sorts of different paints, including greens, to get that mould. And as you can see, there's one pipe here, which I just drilled a bit of a hole rather, put a pipe in there, because if a wall is holding back amount of earth and grass and everything, invariably the drainage is needed. So there's a pipe there. We've got the bricks as well. And incidentally, if you want to make something look wet, I've used super glue, just thin runny super glue, and run it down anywhere where I want to mimic a kind of a damp patch, especially down walls. And for some reason, the wet super glue, once it dries, it's got to be thin, mega thin. So Rocket do a really good one. and when it dries, it looks just like running water. So we've got the scratch built fence, which again you can buy online, but I made this. And there's two aspects on this that I just want to very quickly touch on. The first is, in concrete fences, you always get these, what they call rebars, which are the bars through it just to strengthen it. They're simply for show, and they're just very, very thin brass rod. And then you've got the patches of yellow you can see there. And all I've done there is just get some yellow paint. This is something Alan Downs taught me. Put it on a toothbrush and just run my finger across the toothbrush, and it's splattered onto the concrete. For some reason on concrete you get lots of yellow mold growing, and that's meant to replicate that. So bricks again in the corner, always my favourite. We've here got an old cabinet which I made out of scrap pieces of brass sheet and then glued together and painted kind of a rusty colour. And we've also got the cables going under the line itself for the track circuit detectors, which again, a couple of weeks ago we did a video on these and how to make them, which I gather people really enjoyed, which is nice. So again, favourite part of my layout. Incidentally, I also made this top lift off. I'll just lift it off for the camera, and then underneath you can see that I've just made the first kind of foot or so of the tunnel wall, just so peeking through the tunnel mouth entrance you're not going to see slabs of wood or plastic or anything else. That's about it for here. Another interesting feature is on the lines above you've got some signal cabinets which are perched on a stand, because obviously this was a steeply gradient, well, a steep gradient embankment. So these signal cabinets were actually perched on a stand, which are scratch built actually out of bits of metal and plastic. So again, something different. And let's just nip down here to the stagnant pool, which again lives next to the track. You can just see it in perspective there. There's actually two of them, and I used to play on here as a kid. I remember seeing all the furniture, like that bedstead, a sofa, and some reeds. I remember all that, and swinging on these branches on a piece of rope, and yeah, getting myself extremely muddy in the process. But this is just resin. We're going to go through water in a couple of weeks with just some bricks in the water that some kids thrown in, probably me. I'm just panning out and just showing you all the different details. Of course, you've got the concrete trunking, which we've been through in a previous video, how to do that. We're going to talk about dead leaves as well in the next couple of weeks and how to do that. Really easy. It's just basically real leaves, real dead leaves, which you're going to see more and more of this year, scrunched up and put in a coffee grinder. Probably a picture popping up now, and then super glued down, and they make super leaves because they are nothing other than dead leaves. So that works well. That's the banner repeater, which was made for me by Absolute Aspects. I can't claim to have made that. And then you've got Graffiti 2, which you can buy online just by tapping in model O gauge or double O gauge graffiti. You'll get that popping up. You can buy it on eBay. But there's loads of little details on here. Hopefully that'll give you a bit of inspiration to add some of them to your layout too. Let's just nip on to a little... Oh, before I go, let me show you this. This existed as a child. Must have been obviously an old Fogman's hut. But I used to play in here simply because it was full of old dirty magazines. Now I've even mimicked some of the dirty mags in there. I don't know if you can see them. And printed them off. The roof was never wholly there. The door I've massacred with a Dremel, but basically I've just painted it green to mimic the and just taking some planks out the side so you can see all that. Look at the dirty, look at the leaves too at the front. But yeah, that came out really well, and it was still there up till just a few years ago. So that, ladies and gents, is the tunnel mouths, and a really interesting part of the layout in my view, and I hope you agree. Let's have a look at this too. This is Plate Layer's hut. It's actually by Intentio, They sell it in a kind of a plywood kit form. Now I've made this, and what I decided to do is kind of super detail it. If you can just see, I'm trying to get the camera to zoom in, but it's difficult at this angle. But if you zoom in yourself, you can see that what I've done is really butcher the plywood sides and then add with some tweezers some brass rod, which I've painted a rusty colour. So you're mimicking the rebars or the strengthening bars within the concrete. That's actually better on the roof. You can just see that there too. Probably applied a bit too much resin to that roof, which is meant to mimic water, but I've gone a bit overboard. Can't get it right every time, but there you go. Good old bricks outside, and some old fella, don't know what he's doing, he's probably up to no good. The door is hanging off its hinges. Again, just when you make this kit, don't put the door in, as it says in the instructions, just hang it off the hinges, because most plate layers huts have not been around for years and years, so they're all going to look pretty dilapidated. This one, I think, is an old LMS stroke LNER example, of which we're seeing all over the network, and they're still around even today. So it makes a great little model, and again is available from Intentio. So let's scoot up. I just want to show you one more bit on this section. I never really found out what this gravel was on the real thing, but it certainly looks like it was possibly part of the embankment was slipping, and they just filled it in with gravel and then put some corrugated iron to stop, to kind of stabilize the gravel. Don't know what it was, but I copied it and it's there. And it's this sort of thing that really adds something to your own layout, just little details like this. Again, we've got going back to the concrete troughing or trunking. You can see the lids, which they were always skew with. That is covered again in a previous video. So if you've only just subscribed to my channel, just have a look at some of the previous videos, because they'll tell you how to go about doing all these things. Static grass too, which is the subject of so many comments. But yeah, we'll follow this down back to the Intentio hut, and yeah, let's just scoot over right to the other end of the layout and have a look at the scenic break and the gantry and the bridge, as I said, right at the east end. So we'll go over there now. Actually, just before we do go to the far end, the east end, let's just have a look at this footbridge too. This actually is interesting because it was built in 1900, and not 2 weeks ago, Network Rail have just pulled it down because of the Trans-Pennine upgrade. So it's a shame, but it has just disappeared. But the fences rather, are old London North Western Railway. And I can't remember where I got these. I think they were a kit from some form. But the footbridge itself is brass and is built from 2 kits from a company which Phoenix Precision Paints have under their umbrella. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's sold through them. I think it's sold in 00 and O gauge, but it's a very typical design which you see on the network even today. You can see the old Tesco carrier bag there, 1980s Tesco carrier bag design. I did a competition actually when it was out once, and gave some kids a load of chocolates if they could find the correct number of Tesco carrier bags. I think there's about 14 on the layout. I just remember them as a kid. And then if we scoot past the footbridge, we've got a couple of, again, off-the-shelf relay boxes, which I've just added some graffiti to as well. So again, these are all things you can add to your layout. Old sleepers with the yellow markings at one end, which apparently, according to a ganger, is they're marked just to say, or to tell other gangers when they need replacing. So yeah, there we have it. So we're looking at the signal gantry, which again, I'm not going to claim was made by me. It was actually made for me by Matt at Absolute Aspects about, it's been nearly 10 years ago. Poor bloke, he didn't have to spend some time doing this. That's actually just been demolished on the real railway just recently, which is a shame. But it's not that I wanted to show you really. It's all the other details, because we're looking at the bridge. And as you can see now, again, I've overdone the frost bit maybe a little bit, but you can see the furniture, an old dustbin, a sofa, all chucked down here. Again, I don't see it much on models or on layouts, but I see it a lot on the prototype. So there's another reason there for you to buy some furniture, some old furniture in model form, which from memory I think you can get from 10 Commandments online or various other places shows. The brick or the stone is actually carved from Das clay, which I've shown before in these videos, and I've just run some super glue down them and a bit of frost effect just to make it appear really damp, because it was a horrible damp place around here. And then if we just pan back, let's have a look. We've got a lady with some, not yellow, but yeah, yellow blonde hair. Don't know what she's doing. Old dustbin, some water. And then we've got the old grates in the road. And this was a really old ramshackle road that I'm showing you now. We've got the lay-by, which a Capri is usually parked up in. And yeah, just some more detail for you to add. Just for comparison, this is the other signal gantry about halfway up the layout, again made by Absolute Aspects. This one's had this snow effect, as you can see, because we're modelling a winter layout. I just simply modelled the steps. I think they're from Plastruct, and embedded them in the polystyrene, get my words out, scenery. And then we've got the relay boxes stood on their own platform, again just modelled from the real thing, bit of graffiti on them as well, and a train spotter with a camera from what I can see. So again, I don't see many railings or whatever on the stairways that go up the embankments to the relay boxes, but they're all there and you can buy all that sort of stuff off the shelf. Just pan in, we've got the points themselves with the point motors, and we've got the track circuit detectors, which again we covered the other week. I'm just going to pan down to this little bit here, which I really like. And this was a little culvert which ran under the main tracks, and probably put a bit too much resin in here, but to make the water, which again I'm going to go through in the next few weeks. But there's an old rubber tyre, some pallets, and I don't think you can see very well the brickwork. You may be able to see the bars which stop rubbish accumulating as the water flows underneath. But again, just a nice little touch, and something you can add to your own layout. Just a little culvert going under the railway. We then move a bit further on, and we've got loads of gorse. Now I'm going to confess I cannot remember where I bought this gorse from, but I got it basically from a show, an exhibition somewhere, from a Polish distributor, and I can't remember what they were called, but really good gorse. And I've just sprinkled some yellow scatter on it with matte varnish securing it, because gorse, when it flowers, you get yellow flowers, and it's usually for some reason in the winter. So hence a bit of frost and a bit of yellow flowers. And the sign for Heaton Lodge Junction North, you can see there. You can never have enough of these rails. Scrap rails, still all over the network. Bricks again, can't go wrong. And of course the old ubiquitous line side fencing. So hopefully some of that has given you some ideas to add some details to your own layout. And I'm going to go through in the next few weeks exactly how you can do it. You can probably guess by what I've shown you, but we'll go through it in more detail over the next few weeks, together with progress on the other side. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Sorry it's not that long, the video this week, simply because there's so much noise coming from the factory above. I couldn't do as much filming, but anyway, we'll make up for it next week. Thanks again. Please like and subscribe as ever. And once again, all of you that subscribed, donated to the crowdfunding, really appreciate it as ever. It's been a massive help, and thanks once again. Have a great weekend and see you next week.